Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. I wanted to make this video about a question somebody asked me. This week. I think it's an important topic to cover, and that is about kibbud av v'em, the mitzvah of honoring parents. So I want to hit it from a few different angles. I want to hit from the Jewish perspective and from the perspective of a convert or a potential convert and what they go through in family issues, and also a Noahide. Right? I guess I'll hit all of them in one shot. Don't worry, it's not going to be a long, video. Try to, keep it as short as possible. And by me, it's not an easy thing. Either case, honoring the parent, one of the 10 commandments. The Torah tells us, Kibud es avicha v'esimecha. There's an obligation. It says in the book of Exodus, chapter 20, there's a mitzvah to honor parents, to fear parents. It's the only mitzvah, except for the mitzvah of shiluach hakein, sending away the mother bird, where the Torah tells you that you're going to get aricha shomim. You're going to get long life. Now, the discussion the Talmud asks, what does it mean? What does it mean, long life? There's disagreement between the rabbis and Elisha ben Abuya, otherwise known as Acher, the other one, because he basically became a heretic because of this. What did he see? He saw a child doing shiluach hakein. He was climbing up a ladder, take away the eggs, shooing away the mother bird, and he was doing the mitzvah of kibbud av v'em. He's doing the mitzvah of honoring his parents, because the father wanted the eggs. So his father told him, climb up, do the mitzvah of shiluach hakein, and bring me the eggs. So what happened? Kid was climbing up the ladder, fell off the ladder, and the child died. Now, there's a discussion between the rabbis and Elisha ben Abuya about what's going on over here. Because Elisha ben Abuya said, I don't understand. If the Torah tells me that there's a mitzvah for both things, both kibbud av v'em, honoring the parents, and the mitzvah shiluach hakein, it says aricha shomim, you're going to get long life. How'd this child die? Right? And so because of that, Elisha ben Abuya basically became a heretic. Now, the rabbis answered him, when it says aricha shomim, when it says you're going to get long life, it can't mean in this world. Right? B'schar mitzvah hayal malega. That the merit of a mitzvah in this world there is not, literally, means that you're not going to get the merit for doing a mitzvah in this world. So what we have is it must be that it doesn't mean this world. It must mean that the merit of long life for honoring the parent is going to be in the next world. So the rabbis basically said to Elisha ben Abuya, you missed the boat, right? You didn't learn the explanation of the Torah in the right way, and because of that, that's what happened. He ended up going astray and becoming a heretic. It's a whole interesting discussion about Elisha ben Abuya, but we're not gonna discuss that now. Maybe we'll make another video about what happened to him. But in general, the Talmud tells us in Tractate Kedushin, the Talmud tells us one of the hardest mitzvahs, if not the hardest mitzvah, to keep is honoring the parent. Right? How do we know that we've honored a parent enough? I mean, the great rabbis, tell us it's almost an impossible mitzvah to do, right? Because there's no limit to the honor, and respect that a parent deserves. So, from a Jewish perspective, get to the non-Jewish perspective or convert in training perspective in a second. So, Jewish perspective is, what does it mean? I have to honor them. That when a parent walks in the room, a child should stand up for them, right? At least once. If the parent keeps coming back and forth, the child doesn't have an obligation to stand up. But as a show of honor, because the parents brought them into this world, there's an obligation to honor them. Now the child should stand up. Now a parent could forego that. A parent could say, "Nah, don't worry about it. You don't have to stand up." When you walk in a room. But it's a good thing to train the child that should have respect, right? They should have proper respect. Not only that, it means that when we're talking about honor, it can also mean that we have to take care of them. We may have to use our own money, right? Certainly to take care of them, etc. Also, we're not allowed to contradict. The child's not allowed to contradict the parent. Now, even if the parent's wrong, right? Even if the parent's wrong, you're not allowed to say, "Mom, Dad, you're wrong." Right? You're out of your mind. You made a mistake. Right? You're not allowed to say that. That's a show of disrespect. So if let's say they say something, I don't know, against the Torah, and it's not true, so you're not allowed to tell them that they're wrong. So you have to tell them, well, I think the Torah says like this, and then, show them where it says it, or whatever. Or that's the way out of it, right? But that's the way you can, be respectful. Instead of saying, well, you missed the boat, you don't know what you're talking about, you're obligated to say, well, I think the Torah says like this. Or I think I learned that it's like this. That's showing them that what they said is wrong, right? Definitely showing them that they're wrong. But you're doing it in a respectful way. You're not outrightly saying, "Mom, Dad, you missed the boat." You're showing them a source to show that they're not right. But you're not saying it. You're not saying it outrightly, meaning that you're not embarrassing them, right? You're not embarrassing them, showing them, that they're wrong. Another thing is, if a parent's talking, you let them finish. You don't interrupt. All right. Not only that, it's rude. It's rude to interrupt any person. All the more so, it is rude to interrupt a parent when they're talking. So, contradicting a parent is wrong. Interrupting a parent is wrong. And if a parent asks you to do something, you do it straight away. Right? You don't do it that. You don't say, "Oh, I'll do it in a minute." Wait a minute. You stop what you're doing. I mean, it's got to be within reason. You stop what you're doing, and you do what they tell you to do. Now, there's a limit over here. The parents go overboard and want you to do this, that, and the other thing that is, is degrading or whatever. No mitzvah to listen to a parent. It's going to be a question: what happens if a parent's evil? If a parent's a Rush, is there an obligation to honor them or not? But there's a mitzvah also, not to listen to a parent if they want you to desecrate Shabbos. Now, this is a sore point of contention for some people, because the parent will say, "I want you to do this on Shabbos." Now, what if it's forbidden? If it's something forbidden, you're not allowed to listen to them. Now, the Torah says in the book of Exodus, Torah tells us it's going through the building of the Mishkan and going through all the loops and the boards and the beams and all that, right? As it's going through like chapter after chapter, recapitulation of all the things that go into building the Mishkan. In the middle, it says, by the way, you have to keep Shabbos, right? So the commentaries ask, what's going on? I already know you have to keep Shabbos. It's already mentioned before the Torah is given, right? It's already mentioned in the Ten Commandments. Mentioned a few other times as well. So why do you have to tell me? Why do you have to tell me over here? Seems out of place that I have to keep Shabbos. So Rashi, others learn since it's juxtaposition of the verses. We always learn from juxtaposition of the verses. Verses are not just set up in a haphazard way. So what you have is, Rashi says that anything that was done in the Mishkan does not supersede Shabbos, right? Or Shabbos does not supersede it, meaning that whatever was done in the Mishkan I can't do on Shabbos. And the rabbis made a fence around that and said anything similar, right? There are 39 categories. Three are only mentioned in the Torah itself. You're not allowed to cook on Shabbos, not allowed to light a fire on Shabbos, not allowed to carry on Shabbos. The other 36 not mentioned, are learned out from different actions that were done in the Mishkan. Regardless, there are 39 categories, and anything similar to that was done in the Mishkan, the Torah prohibition, right? So it's probably rabbinic. The rabbinic prohibition. That being said, a parent says, "Here, I want you to take out the trash. I want you to bring it outside. And if it has to go in a public thoroughfare, you're not allowed to, right? If it's going in the garage, not a problem, right? If it's going, I guess, on your property, right? Also not a problem, right? Because it's still considered one place. In other words, you take it from the inside to the outside, let's say to the end of the driveway. It's still not part of a public thoroughfare. That would be okay. If they want you to carry and move things that doesn't have anything forbidden in it in the house, you'd be allowed to. If they say turn off the lights, you're not allowed to listen. If they say, well, I want you to cook this for me on Shabbos, you're obligated not to listen. If they cook for you, let's say on Shabbos, and they're doing it definitely for their sake and for your sake, you're not allowed to eat it. Even after Shabbos, you wouldn't be allowed to eat it because they're doing it on purpose. So a person has to stand up to their parents, for better or for worse, and say, listen, this is Shabbos, I'm not allowed to do it. Now you have to do it in a respectful way, right? You're not allowed to embarrass them. You're not allowed to scoff at them, mock at them, etc. And, if a parent says, well, murder is worse than keeping Shabbos, not true. By transgressing Shabbos. Because a person transgresses Shabbos, what does the verse tell us? Verse tells us that you're going to get killed. All right, you're liable for the death penalty, mot yumat. You're going to surely die. It's corporal punishment. And then it says you're going to get spiritually cut off. So it's a double whammy. You're going to get spiritually cut off, and you're going to die in this world. Right? If there was a Beis Hamikdash, there would be a temple today. They would have taken you out if they were witnesses and they warned you for the right thing. So you're in trouble. Right? I mean, more than in trouble. You're going to die. Right? They would take you, convict you, and that's it. So, person living at home, and they're in this situation, it's a very hard situation to be in. You have to fake things. You can lie to them. You can lie to your parents to try and get out of it. I think the best thing to do, would be to say, listen, I'm keeping Shabbos. Unless they're going to beat you, or something. So roll the dice. Roll the dice. What are they going to do? If a person's older. What can they do? So someone will say, well, they'll take away all my books. What's worse? Let them do that. Let them do that, or be over a Torah prohibition, potentially, or at least a rabbinic prohibition, transgressing Shabbos. So, it's a big problem. It's certainly not simple. A person's under onus, right? In this situation, a person's under onus. But if a person's under onus, you don't get a free pass. It's not like you're doing it on purpose. It's peer pressure, right? A person's getting a lot of peer pressure. It's hard. I know somebody that, parents were going to, I think it was a wedding or whatever, and they had to drive on Shabbos. The person was adamant. They didn't want to go, whatever, but they got forced. Okay, parents drove, so it wasn't necessarily, them doing it, but they were an accessory, and that was it. After that, they left the house. They said, they made it clear to the parents that, they weren't out of the house yet, but they made it clear to the parents, this will never happen again. I'm never doing this. I'm never doing this again, and, I'm not going to let you force me to do it. Finished. So a person, if the parents are going to make life that difficult, then, you have to pick your poison. And, there are certain things you can do in a different way than you would normally do it. But again, if it's something direct, right? If it's something direct and they tell you, push this button, turn on the dishwasher, whatever it is that's forbidden, turn on the hot water thing to make coffee, or turn on the percolator, that's usher. That is forbidden. That you're not allowed to do. You're supposed to honor your parents. This doesn't apply, right? I had this happen to me also. So it is one of the 10 commandments to honor your parents, yes, but this doesn't apply. This totally doesn't apply. I can't disrespect them. I certainly can't disrespect them. I have to try and respect them as much as possible. But what's more important? Your parents are God. So if they tell you to transgress, 100%, no obligation to listen to them, and that doesn't transgress the laws of honoring a parent. Now, what happens in this case? Let's say this case. The parents are Rishoyim. The parents are evil, right? They want to take their kid and make him break Shabbos. So there's a difference of opinion. There's a difference of opinion. If the parents are Russia, if they are evil, then I don't have to honor them. I have to still show a certain level of respect. I can't scoff at them. I can't embarrass them. But I certainly don't have to honor them. Right? According to this opinion, if they walk in the room, I don't have to stand up for them. They don't deserve it. Right? If they're abusive, certainly don't deserve it. And if they're abusive physically, I can stand up to them. I can try and stop them. I tell them you don't want to make a wound in them. That's a Torah prohibition. Okay, but if they're coming at you, you have to defend yourself. The mitzvah to defend yourself over here. Now, I don't think people are necessarily inherently that bad. I mean, some are. What if they give you all kinds of mental issues, right? They abuse you mentally. So also, a similar thing. It's not a healthy situation. So I can't embarrass them. Certainly can't embarrass them in public. But honor, I don't have to do. Right? Honor goes out the window. The other opinion is that even if they're a Rasha, they're considered Rashaim, they're evil, then there is still an obligation to honor them, right? Regardless, there's a story of in the Talmud where one of the rabbis, mother spit at him, ripped his clothes and whatever, and he still held that he had to behave in a proper way. Couldn't yell out, couldn't scream at her, etc. So it's a very hard mitzvah to do. So as we mentioned, there's a difference of opinion whether someone who's a Rasha, whether physically or mentally, causing issues, whether there's still an obligation to honor them. Respect, you still have to a certain extent, right? You can't, you shouldn't interrupt when they speak, shouldn't yell at them. You should still, not interrupt, etc. But I'm not allowed to abuse them, right? I'm not allowed to embarrass them, right? Even if they're evil. Now, what about a Tinok Shenishba? What about somebody who is held captive by the non-Jews? Meaning, a secular Jew today. Secular Jews never really learned. I mean, some people may think they've learned or whatever, or they may tell you, well, you don't know how to learn, I know how to learn. Well, that same person, who thinks that murder is worse than Shabbos doesn't know, right? If he doesn't know, I mean, that's a pretty obvious thing. If he doesn't know, he's an ignoramus. If he's an ignoramus, I have a mitzvah to listen to him? No. But I can't embarrass them. Right? So we can't embarrass them. So even if they're a Tinok Shenishba, even if they don't know anything, they grew up as a potato farmer in Idaho, right? No offense, anyone grew up in Idaho or grew up as a potato farmer. But if they grew up not knowing anything at all about Judaism, I can't embarrass them. I should honor them, right? Still an obligation probably to honor them, right? But, respect. Respect also, right? Can't interrupt what they say, can't, contradict them, etc. Right? So that being said, honor and respect, even if they're Tinok Shenishba, still should apply. Right? Those are the general rules. Now, what about a convert? What about a person in the process of conversion? Now, before conversion, so they still have an obligation to honor their parents. Right? They would have an obligation at least to respect them. Right? I don't think they'd have an obligation necessarily to stand up for them per se, but you shouldn't contradict them. You shouldn't disrespect them. You shouldn't embarrass them, even if they're idol worshiper, even if they make fun of what you do, etc. You still, they brought you into this world. You still have to have a certain level of, a certain level of respect. Now, after conversion, let's say the parent doesn't convert and the child converts. So now, technically speaking, the parent has nothing to do with the child spiritually, right? Physically, they're still connected, right? They're still blood relatives. But spiritually speaking, there's no connection. So that would mean if a parent died, would they have an obligation to sit Shiva, right? To mourn or to say Kaddish. So there are differing opinions. So I would say that really there's no obligation, right? No obligation to do that. Even let's say the father converted or the mother converted. Let's say they both convert. Parents convert. Everybody converts over here. Now, the mother and the father are not really connected spiritually to the child. So if they have a son and the mother or the father dies, technically speaking, he's got no obligation to say Kaddish. What should he do practically? He's allowed to. Right? He's allowed to say Kaddish, he's allowed to mourn. If he's not Jewish, if the father's not Jewish, they can take on some mourning customs. I mean, but they certainly don't have an obligation. Certainly don't have an obligation to do so. And most rabbinical authorities probably say that, don't. Right? You don't mourn. You don't mourn for a non-Jew. It's just, it's not someone you have an obligation to mourn for. It's not that we don't like non-Jews or, we hate non-Jews. It's, if God forbid, a non-Jewish relative, that we have, if they die, okay, they die, but they're not related to me. They're not connected. Maybe connected by blood, but they're not, in a certain way. But they're not connected spiritually. They're not connected to me spiritually. It's not someone I have an obligation to mourn for, because they're not connected to me spiritually. Why would I mourn for them? I mean, why would I go through the mourning customs or process? Answer, I wouldn't. I mean, it sounds a little bit harsh, but we'll make it easy. If the parents convert, then they should sit Shiva. Even if they're technically not related. But as a non-Jew, I don't think there's any obligation. They want to do some mourning customs, fine, but there's certainly no obligation, whatsoever. Someone say, well, what if I want to do it? Can I do it? Again, if it would be someone you'd be obligated to mourn for, right? And you're going to say Kaddish, the mourner's prayer 4 or 5 times. Does mourner's prayer apply to a non-Jew? I'll let anyone listening to this answer the question. My opinion, so I'll give you a hint. My opinion is, doesn't matter. Right? Saying Kaddish is not going to do anything. Right? They don't have the same type of soul. It's not the same thing. So a non-Jew in the process of conversion has to be careful. If the parents give him a hard time, you still have to show respect. Right? You still, you may not have to honor them. You may not have to stand up when they walk in a room. Respect you should have. Now that, again, that's not going to be so easy, especially if they're hammering you. Right? So a lot of times, I would say that, when it comes to a parent, siblings, or whatever, that don't toe the line or are antagonistic, etc., at some point, you're not going to want to really speak to them. I'm not saying it happens across the board. I'm not saying it has to happen. But when a person goes in that direction, right, and the person gets antagonized, and they just refuse to back down and keep antagonizing, so a person has a choice. You can either continue to have a connection and be antagonized and get annoyed, or you can either cut off connection altogether, or maybe just cut it off a little bit, just whatever you can take, just be in less contact. It happens with Bali Tshuva also, with returnees to Judaism. I know somebody that he became, a good friend of mine became religious, and his parents cut him off, just totally cut him off. He got married, his parents didn't come, didn't help him, nothing. And, when a friend of mine's father died, never saw his grandkids. His mother recently just saw his, for the first time, but that's like a crazy thing. I know enough stories where people are not necessarily that close-minded, to that extent. But at the end of the day, a person may have to cut back. Again, I don't want to be misquoted here. I'm not saying across the board that should happen. What I'm saying is that inevitably it probably does, right? Vast majority of the time, because you have less in common. You definitely have less in common, and especially if they're Bible thumpers, or they just think you're gonna fry in hell forever, and they hammer you all the time. So I would always say, I need another hole in my head. Like, what do I need it for? Maybe I do need another hole in my head, but whatever. What do you need it for? You don't need any more aggravation. So a non-Jew in the process of conversion, or a Noahide, right? A Noahide be no different in this case. That they don't convert, they stay as a non-Jew. They still have to have respect for their parents. I mean, it'd be a universal thing. They brought you into this world, so it's an obligation. Honoring them, I don't know if they'd have an obligation, stand up when they walk in a room. I don't think that's a universal, it's a universal thing. Disrespecting them, yeah, that would be forbidden. Talking back to them, yelling at them, that would be bad. That would certainly be bad. Contradicting them and interrupting when they speak, that's rude, right? Most people would tell you that's rude. So even for a non-Jew, you wouldn't be allowed. You wouldn't be allowed to do that as a, even as a Noahide or a what I call a Jew in training. Right? You wouldn't be allowed to do that as well. So those are the basic guidelines. If you have like real specific questions, how this applies, I think that should answer most of the questions. But but again, just realize that when a person's changed their life, it's a whole different set of values, etc. Parents, siblings, like sort of go out the window. because they don't want to have any part of it. If you're coming from a Christian background, they'll think you're a fruitcake, right? For wanting to leave it, some more, some less, whatever the case is. And you believe this is the truth. You've been duped. You've been lied to for so long, and now you finally come to absolute truth, and you want to live it. You want to show what it is, and they just sit there and hammer you and make fun of you. You have to know where to draw the line. I can tell you from personal experience, it wasn't pleasant, hearing comments being made, certainly about me. And that was it. I just gave snappy answers, and, I have very little to do with, most of my family. People say, oh, you're an extremist, you're this, you're that. Whatever. People can say what they want. I don't enjoy getting made fun of. I don't enjoy being told, oh, you're too insensitive. I'm sorry, you're too sensitive. What are you getting so upset about? Because it's offensive. Because people make stupid, offensive comments. So what's my obligation to sit there and take it? Well, they're family. So what? Do I have to be a punching bag? I have to be a dish rag? Now I have to take what they say? I don't have to take what they say. I got better things to do with my time. I can watch, as many people have heard, I can watch there. I don't have my head grow. Okay? We all have to make decisions. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but you don't have an obligation to be a punching bag. And even if the parent, the sibling, let's say it's a parent and they're hammering you or whatever, cut them out. It's kind of like cancer. Burn it out. It's not worth it in the end. If they want to show mutual respect, say fine. We can agree to disagree, and that's it, and leave it. But if it gets that bad, so then you have to cut off ties to a certain extent. But again, with parents, it's harder. Siblings, you don't have this obligation. I'm not saying you should be disrespectful, right? But, in a heated moment, things can get said. And with the parent, you can't, even in a heated moment, you can't say things. There's certain things, you got to be very, very careful. So that's why the Talmud says that this is one of the hardest mitzvahs to do. But doesn't matter. As long as our parents are alive, this is what we have to do. And this is what we have to, strive, regardless if they agree with us, disagree with us. We have to make the best of our ability in order that we uphold this mitzvah, even though it's going to be, an extremely difficult thing to do. So I welcome all questions. Enjoy this question. I got other things to go through as well. But anyone has, any questions they want me to deal with on a video, you can send me a text at Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. So I want to thank everyone for listening.